Hi, so today I have my friend Sabio here, whose company is Mastering Harmony, and I've come to speak around the topic of death and grieving and some kind of techniques that work and can help support through that. Why is this the topic of conversation? Well, my nan recently passed away. Prior to this, I'd kind of had some thoughts about death, and I found it quite uncomfortable to talk about it. And I wanted to speak to Sabi about this because he's a death doula, amongst many things, and I couldn't really face to it. Turned out I couldn't face it in time, and then my nan passed away. But as soon as she passed away, I knew that Sabio was the person that I needed to speak to, and he really helped and supported me through lots of things in the process, and it was really beneficial to me. From a practical element, which we'll talk about, and from a mental health element. And it was just so helpful. So I kind of wanted to do a talk on this and share this message and hope that somebody else can benefit from this experience. So first, let's talk about being a death doula first, and what that role is, and how you came about it, and how you decide you want to be a death doula, and the things that you kind of do as a death doula, because it's quite a new role. It's something I'd never heard of before.
Yes, hi. Thank you for having this opportunity to talk to you. And yes, it's interesting because the end of life doula or death doula, it's quite new. This is true, and I think in the last May there were only 600 people doing this work in the UK. So it's a very kind of new thing, but it is very important role. So like the same way we have a doula which helps bring the baby to the world, right? The when we have a birth doula, that's the name. And the same way when we finish our life, this is the same idea. We are helping people to transition. Also, the family is all about supporting the family. It's about supporting the dying person. Another important thing is advanced care plan. So there are many aspects of this work, and there are many different ways to support the families and the person who is dying, basically.
And if you could go through a little bit more about the end of life care plan, because I unfortunately my nan couldn't face talking about death. She put things in place kind of financially, insurance policies, to make sure that that cost was covered, but she couldn't face anything else. She couldn't face a will, she couldn't face the plans, and so it put us in a really hard position of second guessing, and then family members all thinking and wanting different things, and just kind of wanting to do justice by her. And it actually made it quite a hard experience to try and guess the wishes around, and kind of going back to old conversations that we thought that she'd had and what she would like. And you sent me the care plan, and if I'd have had that care plan before, it would have made the process, possibly for her, a little bit more, she'd have had an input in it, and probably have helped reduce the fear around death to some extent. But it definitely would have helped us to do the things that we think that she wanted, her wishes. And actually from that, I'm 30 years old, but you never know what's around the corner. But I am going to put in a care plan for myself. It's just such a thorough thing, and it will help whoever's around at the time and know what they want, and kind of relieve some of that pressure around decisions in such a very hard time. But if you want to go into a little bit of what's in that care plan and why it's helpful.
Yes, so I think it's very difficult to approach this because they are very difficult questions, and personally, I think like everyone, when we finish 18 years old, after that we should create this kind of plan, because life is life. This can clarify so many areas, because there are many aspects of leaving this world. So there's a legal agreements, for example, the will about my body, what do I want to do with my body. There's, for example, this law in the UK that the default arrangement is that the government or the NHS, let's say, or the organization, when we die, will take the body to take the organs from the body, and it's a default. We need to opt out in order to if we don't want to share our body after death. But if we don't know, even after death we're not safe. So that's the one of the things. But then we have this arrangement about who is next to kin, who is in charge, who has a decision making kind of role. And we need to share this document with many people, with GP, and many family members also, that everyone knows what is the will. And for me, the most important thing is this, that we need to do this document when we are conscious. If we are not conscious, then it doesn't count. Our word doesn't count. It needs to be in writing. So that's why it's difficult. And when we know that the death is approaching for one of our family member, so it's really important to sit and at least do the most important things, because it's so many problems after. The reason why many times family is fighting, because they know there are gaps, and no one said anything. So now we can use the situation. But if it was written down, it's clear, and the lawyer has this document, and it's just peace of mind, really. And I think that's why it's very important to think about this. I think everyone can find online this document. It's called Advanced Care Plan, and at least go through the questions, because the questions, like, I tried to go through first. When I tried to go first time through, was like, oh my god, like, I don't know, like, for example, we would think that the next to kin will be my mother, yeah, because it's the closest family member. So we would say, oh yes, that's the best choice. But imagine that your mother is at the hospital. You cannot move, and you cannot manage yourself at all, and you are in a coma, let's say, and your mother will be the last person who would like to let you go. So they will keep you going, as and according to the law, until you die, but or exhaust yourselves. But it's a suffering. It's a very, very difficult moments, because we think we help someone, we show mercy to someone, but really, for this person who is on the bed in the hospital alone, it's suffering. And we sustain this situation for a long time. So it's a very, so that's why we need education about this, also preparation. And it's a shame that it's a shame that until now, this aspect, which no one can avoid, the death, dying aspect of life, uh, no one talks about. And only now we start kind of bringing back this aspect. And I think it's beautiful, because it's all about the dignity of the human being, it's even more important how we die than how we come to this world, because when we come to this world, we have time to rearrange, to reprogram what happened. But at this moment, there's nothing, and having the last memory, or last few years suffering, it's a degradation of the human soul and being, and really, yeah. So many different aspects. It's a very very interesting subject.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a really there's a saying that's kind of said that death can either bring a family together or it can pull a family apart. And
Mm.
sadly, if my nan couldn't face that, and that's fine, and I respect that. But because of not having these kind of plans in place and not being able to have these conversations, it has torn our family apart. It's brought us together in other ways, some other members, but it's torn us about and apart. And reading through the document, it does kind of make you think to yourself, you know, it for me and my mum, it was the first loss in the family. So all of these questions are coming up to you, sort of, what do they want to do with the body? Do they want to be buried? Do they want to be cremated? You know, even things as like choosing the coffin, choosing the songs for a funeral, who wants to be at the funeral, who you want to know about your death, who you don't want to know about your death. If you get to a place where you're not able to, make reasonable choices, if you're not sane, who's going to make those decisions for you? It's a document that helps the family during that period, and it's also a document that helps you. And if you do it whilst you're in a sane place of mind, I think, and you're not in a state of anxiety, like say if I found out tomorrow that I had an illness and I needed to make these decisions, they're not going to be from a place of peace and like my real choice, I don't think. So it's a really hard document to go through, but I think it's something where you can get an element of control in an uncontrollable situation, and the sooner you can get it done, the better. And actually, I gave it to my grandfather afterwards when he was grieving, which may not have been the best time, and it wasn't necessarily received well through the family members, but I just wanted to kind of make sure that we didn't go through the same experience that we had done with my nan. But even showing him that document and speaking through some of the questions, it brought up, like straight off the cuff, he kind of said, I don't want a big funeral, I only want family members. Now that completely shocked me, because my granddad's a hugely sociable person. He knows many people over the years from different groups and societies that he's been part of. And I said, but granddad, there's so many people that would want to celebrate your life. And he said, well, that's fine. If they want to celebrate my life, they can go to like our local pub and they can buy themselves a pint. Now, had I'd not even just shown that document to him, I would have gone out for a massive funeral for him with lots of people and lots of expense, and that wouldn't have been his wish. So even going through the document, if you can't face putting the things down, I think it triggers an entry into an uncomfortable conversation that we avoid. And I think I'd never knew it existed. And I'm glad that you gave that to me for myself and my family. So I guess we should talk about the grieving process a little bit. I know that the grief process is different for everyone. I mean, I've witnessed it and I'm kind of still going through that process right now. And I realised that I grieved in a very different way that my mum grieved and my grandfather and other family members. And that can be quite hard, I think, because, if you feel that you're kind of coping okay, you think, oh my God, is this going to hit me in a minute? Like, am I just going to, my world going to end? And then you kind of see like, my mother, for example, her grieving process was very hard and very visceral. And then, there's other members of the family that kind of don't show that they're suffering. And it's just really hard to know, like, is what I'm feeling right? Or is it wrong? Is it going to get bad? Is this going to be forever? Like, do you have any advice in terms of grieving or things that are healthy to do? I guess from a death doula perspective, it's prior to the death and then kind of afterwards. Are there any tips or things that you practice as a death doula?
Yeah, grieving is according to official kind of official knowledge, what's out there. They talk about 5 stages. Bless you. Five stages of grieving. And from my perspective, it's what grieving process is the process of going through the situation when I lost something. I lost something, was taken from me. Yes, and now there are many approaches. But for example, if we I'm really big fan of the Chinese medicine, where we don't name, like in Chinese medicine, they don't name disease. They don't name. There's no name of disease. There's a cause of this harmony, this ease, but the cause is the disturbance of the distribution of the electricity energy in the body, right? So there's some kind of blocked, then the circulation of the energy doesn't work, and this is the reason why, and this only one almost this ease, and that's it's like a disease, no ease in the
Yeah.
body, right? And what will happen then if we if we don't put the label on it, or if we really honest, and we let's say we really scrutinize what's really happening. Okay, I spent this time, and I have shared this experience with this person who is not here anymore, and this is painful, because the pain is in this realization that this will never happen again. This, but how many times we don't see family members for a long time, and it's okay, right? Because it's okay, because we know we will see them at some point. But here that's the end, the last time, right? And we feel like we lost something, but really, it's a big subject, because the understanding brings peace. The understanding why things are happening brings peace to ourselves, to our soul, really, and the knowledge also. And because we never ask ourselves these questions, what will happen, or, well, most of the time we never ask, how I'm wondering how I'm gonna feel when you're not here. Um, and we are completely not prepared for this. But this is something like a night and a day. This will come, and it's a sad thing that in the society, we don't even talk about this. Where in the past, in different cultures, that's the normal thing. You talk, the child is aware about death. They see the body, they can see the body, they get used to, they know what's happening. Or grandmother or grandfather just pass away, and we explain this. And now what's happening now, we just I don't see, I don't want to know, right? And then when things are happening, then, oh my god, it's a problem, because but it's always related to so it's again me. I feel bad, I'm poor me. It's a very complex, I don't want to simplify this, but it's so what I can do then, to, because we cannot do anything with the fact that this person is gone and I stayed. So like with other things, like we always we have a choice, and we choose how we feel. And I really think that the time with the right mindset, and the time will be shorter to grieve, And also, what about, for example, gypsy culture? Like, when someone dies, there's a party. There are
Mm,
other cultures, I don't know, don't remember, but it's actually happy uh, event, and but why they can be happy and we are like this suffering,
mm,
you know and again, many situations, understanding like, oh, finally, for many people, it's a release, it's the end of suffering. And when this happens, so it's what it comes to, again, to this moment, to this scenario where I am suffering,
mm,
and this is the problem. I'm now have a problem because this this person is gone. Uh, and I love, for example, what Dr. John DeMartini is teaching, and he's amazing, and he always says that there are two sides of the situation. There's always positive and always negative side. And now, it's difficult to see these positive sides, but if we ask right questions in this moment, um, and this is the form of the therapy, right? The right questions. If we start to understand, okay, so this happened, so but now, instead of going into, oh, poor me, and it's okay, and it's important to do this also. I'm not saying this. We need to. It's a very tragic moment for us, but instead of being long time in this and choosing to be poor me, we can start seeing, okay, but because of this situation now, I have maybe another, some doors are opened. And how amazing, that, for example, this person who passed away, um, now is at peace.
mm,
And and understanding also that the consciousness doesn't die. There's this amazing piece of information I heard from one person who assisted around by with around 800 deaths. It's like amazing person. And he said that around 5 minutes before death, everyone will and is starting, or is aware about our soul, first time.
mm,
For many people, first time. And it's just before we leave the body completely. It's 5 minutes before. And and it's I can imagine through my practice, I kind of touch this aspect also. And there's a um, really such a beauty. And when the person, because everyone it is aware, and becomes aware about this aspect, so they touch the beauty of themselves. They are like becoming aware. And um, you know I would even risk maybe this statement that doesn't matter if we believe or not.
mm,
It's like physics almost. We will become aware about this at some point, and it could be just 5 minutes. And yes, so knowing if person who is letting someone go knows this. And that was those traditions, the amazing traditions in Tibet, Tibetan book of death, Egyptian book of death. uh, this um, this knowledge, this information can help both And when we know, okay, let's say you are aware and the person is aware, you both aware, and you just let go in peace, and and maybe the grieving then is not that heavy, or maybe it's okay,
Mm.
you know. And but as I said, so individual, it's so personal, but also, so yes, so this is I don't know if I gave any uh, if I answered your question, but I just felt like, to share this information, and yeah, it's a magical moment. Many people who assist with death, they say it's they love it,
Mm.
because they meet the real the this the beyond the body aspect of us, and once we know this, it's much easier to go through grief. And it's also, I mean, well, I don't know if I should even say that, but there is also a way through different for example, through hypnosis, through different other modalities, to get actually in touch in this awareness, let's say, on the other side. So that's the other thing, also is what's possible.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I do this from time to time, and from my experience, I know that the miracles happen. I mean, this is beyond maybe this conversation, but it's yeah, but it is, that's what this aspect is about. It's like death is so mystical, no?
Mhm. Mm.
Yeah, so
I think listening to you is, yeah, kind of like what came up for me is, um, I when my nan died, it was very sudden, which is something that I'd like to touch on afterwards, and the difference between sudden death and expected death.
mm,
And so it meant suddenly I'd woken up to a phone call, your nan's died, had to kind of like get myself from one area of the UK to another area of the UK, to not know what I was walking into, not knowing the reason of death and things. And then en route home to get to just be within this loss, this space of loss, I had a phone call, you know, your nan's still on the ward now. Do you want to come and see her? And I just suddenly had this massive, I've never thought about this. Like, do I want to go and see someone that's passed? And I think that's an important thing to question before the event. And my natural, maybe it worked well that I'd never had that thought, because my natural instinct just said yes. There was then a phone call that kind of came back and said, actually, she's been dead. It's quite awful, but it's things that we need to talk about. She'd been dead for too long and been on the ward, and they had to take her off. And that was like, what? No, like, I'm coming, like, I'm an hour away, but there's rules and regulations that hospitals have to follow. And I think it's good to have this awareness around it. And then I was given the option that it was on all these things that you don't know. Like, on the day, it was a Saturday, so she had died and had to be taken from the ward. Then it was a Sunday. You can't visit somebody on a Sunday because the chapel of rest isn't open. Then on the Monday, they said that I potentially could. I was then psyching myself up. Do I actually want to go? Do I want to go? On the Monday, then I had a phone call to say that things that you don't expect as well, they can only have how many appointments a day to see a dead person. You, in that point, you kind of think, well, that's my nan. Like, I want to see her when I want to see her. Like, it's already, the gaps starting to close of, when you're able to see that person.
mm,
Um, and then I was finally told that I could go and see her, and my whole body just went into complete trauma response. I can't really describe it to anything else, but I know that I knew that I needed to see her. My body was telling me it didn't want to, but my mind was telling me that it was, and it's just my nan, and there's nothing different. It's still my nan. She's not going to be scary. But what I realized around that, and family wishing me in the best of kind of their, trying to protect my emotional state, I guess, and people around you that have experienced or heard someone that's experienced, don't go and visit. That will be your last memory of that person. They won't look the same. It will be horrible. I just want have your last memory of the person, how they looked when you saw them last. Like, I really wouldn't recommend it. I'll support you if you will, but I won't come in, but I'll support you. And so I was in this awful state of just chaos. Luckily, I had a friend that worked with end of life care in homes, and she said, honestly, go and I will come with you. And she brought her daughter, like, which was amazing, and actually the best remedy of distraction. And she said it's really like the most beautiful experience to go there and kind of just have that time with them. And she said, I can't explain it. She said, but every person that visited a person that had lost where she worked, when the person came out, they came out a different person. And the experience was exactly the same for me. I could barely walk and breathe before I was going in. And then I went to see my nan. And, you know, someone said to me, because of COVID restrictions, which is again something that you need to think about in that process, like different things that are in place. The logistics of it is just crazy that you couldn't believe. You know, and so my friend couldn't come in with me, but the person that worked in the hospital could. And she kind of said, do you want me to come with you? And I said, yes, please, because I thought I was going to collapse. I walked into the room. The second that I walked into the room, I just said, I'm fine. And it was my nan, and I wanted to touch her, and I kissed her. Like, some people might think that's odd, but it was just my nan. And I sat there and I cried with her, and I spoke to her, and I told her all the things that was going on and all of the things that I was going to do. And I even took messages from family members to speak to her. And she was very much there. And I didn't realize that until I went to see her the second time. But I walked out of that room, and my friend said it physically, and like seeing it, I was a different person. And the only way I could describe it is that when I'd heard she'd died, it was only 2 days ago, but a piece of my heart had been taken away. And I didn't think I'd ever get that back and ever feel like myself again. But when I came out, I felt like the piece of heart had been like put back in. You know, it's got a little staple over it, so it's not quite the same, but I'd got that piece of my heart back, and I came out actually quite euphoric. It was quite startling how happy I was to come out from that situation. Now, the other thing I did, I then went to see her again when she came to our hometown, and it was a very different experience. There had been some like discoloration around her lips, and I'm going to say it because it's things that people need to know. Her body was a lot more solid, and like the blood had started to congeal, so she didn't necessarily feel how she used to feel. And in terms of you saying about the soul, it's the first time that I'd ever experienced anything in my life, because when I went to visit the first time, you know, she felt very much in that room and still in her body. And then I went to visit the second time, and she wasn't there. And I don't know how or when or why I felt that way, but she was still my nan, and I still sat with her, and I went to visit her again. And yes, there was some discoloration around the mouth, and yes, her hands had started to drain of blood, and it was still a nice experience to be with her. Like, you know, I felt, well, I wouldn't leave her alone for that period of time normally, so I'm still going to go and make that visit to her. But yeah, there was a very, very different feeling and state of like being there and not being there. Yeah, so I just wanted to share that. I don't know if you have anything comes up on that, or yeah.
Well, you see, it's this yeah, well done, you know, like for doing this, because that should be normal thing, and you did the normal thing, like, you know, not avoiding, and it's a part of life. And naturally, I think you felt this, you know, to be called, and yes, this first time, when you said, I felt also like, yes, this, because there's you know, we can in many different sources of you know, they talk about this, that this awareness stays a while, you know. Some people say like 48 days, something. Some people, some other people, you know, there are different versions of it, but this feeling that, oh, she's still here, it's a feeling because she's still there, you know. And then once it's the time, then we just yeah, leave the space. when the time is right, and yes, and well, I don't know if there's anything to add, but I think this is amazing, that you can share it,
Mm,
because we should talk about this, we should talk about this. It's a normal thing, it's a part of life,
mm,
and it's very, very touching, um, even listening to what you said, like I feel like, wow, it's we are touching the essence, you know.
mm. It's
Mm.
really, I had to say it because had I listened to the majority of voices around me, I wouldn't have gone. But it sounds so bizarre, but it is just for me, it was a beautiful experience. And I would just, like anybody that listens and has that doubt, like, it's different experience for every people and it serves them in different ways, but don't let the majority of voices decide your fate, because yeah, it's not that bad. And actually another thing that was interesting was when she was in the funeral home, which was something I didn't expect. I had it in my head that I was going to go and see her 3 times. Once when she got back, once when I saw her, once when she came to our hometown in the funeral home, and once the night before the funeral to kind of say my last goodbye. And that happened. The last one was really just a short 15-minute, goodbye. Um, but what I didn't realize, and I think it's important for people to know because you don't know, one, which is, I can understand it now, to go and view a body that's in a funeral home, that is a cost on top of the funeral payment. You get charged to go and visit the body. For us, we didn't know that, but even if that was the case, I still would have gone. Like, you can't put a price on that amazing experience I had. And also the funeral homes can say to you, and they did say to me, that you can visit her as much and often as you like, but if there's a point when things start to change, we will stop you from coming. And I kind of said, like, well, what do you mean change? And they said, when the body starts to change in a different way. And I was like, my family were around me and were like, okay. And I was like, no, not just okay. Like, I need to know why I can't. And you need to ask those questions from the people there. And they said, the skin starts to discolor. They don't look the same way that they are. Like, it's just not possible for you to go and see them. And it's not what we like practice, sort of thing. So there is actually a time limit on going to visit someone. So thinking ahead, bear that in mind, because that time limit where you decide that you don't want to do it, when you make that final decision, it might be too late. So yeah, that's really important. Just have a quick drink. So I came to you, didn't I, going through the grieving experience. For me, I felt like I needed to face it. And I think that's because when you've got a mental health history, kind of if you've gone for a long period of time, you get to understand that you need to face things sooner rather than later. So when I knew that this process of grief would start to happen, I knew that I had to act upon it before it started to inhibit my body, basically. But I didn't know what I could do to put in place. I'd done some meditating and it was temporarily relief, and it did serve its purpose, but it wasn't hitting the whole body. The pain that you go through or that I went through when I was grieving was complete head to toe, inside, outside pain. And the level of exhaustion that it brings to the body is like something I've never experienced before. And it is for at least the first 2 days, it was completely encompassed my body. Like, I couldn't stop crying. I was angry. Like, I had rage come out of me, like I didn't know existed in my body before. And my whole body was consumed by it. And I just needed to be like attached to my mum. Fortunately, my mum's around that I could have that experience with her, but I needed to literally be physically meters apart from her. I couldn't function. So I came to Sabia because I was like, I know I need to get out of this and I don't know how. And the first thing that you kind of said to me, along with the conversations around the care plan, which was really important at the time, was to try out the Haven technique, which was something that you'd tried to get me into before, but I'd somehow like scooted past it and never got round to it. Between the both of us, it never happened. But in that moment, it was the most beneficial thing that I experienced, the most amazing tool that I had in that experience and so far. So I wondered if you could just talk about it a little bit. First of all, like, what is the Havening technique and where did it originate from? Yeah, start with that, because it's obviously quite a big thing. But yeah, what is it and where did it originate from?
Yeah, so this is my, I would say, main tool. I have like I use different modalities when I work with one-to-one clients, but yes, so it's all related to psychosensory therapies, techniques.
When, for people that don't know, what is psychosensory experiences?
So the psychosensory is techniques are the techniques where we combine psychic, which is, let's say, some kind of part of talking therapy. It's basically related to the aspect of accessing the mind. So, for example, the part of the psychosensory therapy, the psycho part, would be, for example, like, okay, now go to the place which you really like, so you go in your mind to this place, or so what would you like to have to drink, and we are accessing the sensory inputs inside the mind, but then at the same time, so there are different things like eye movement, there are different modalities related to the psycho part, plus the sensory part. And in Havening, which the scientific name is depotentiation of amygdala. So we use this touch, the Havening touch, which actually generates the delta waves, and it's kind of related to neuroscience. So it's not just the touch. So a different types of touch, like this one, or you can do the face. And there are very specific areas, because those areas, they generate the strongest delta wave in the brain. So we are kind of activating, we are dropping from the, let's say, battlefield, like, which is if we take this concept of brain waves, and each brain wave, the spectrum and the frequency range has we operate in different, well, during the day. For example, now when I from this level, let's say it's a beta, so that's how it's called. If we relax a little bit, take a breath and just drop a little bit down, and you close your eyes and you go into meditation a little bit, that would be kind of alpha. Then we slowing down everything. And the beauty of this Havening touch is this, that we automatically, almost straight away, we are dropping to the delta. So we bypassing all these other brain waves, and we're going to the state where the brain thinks, oh, you are in sleep, you sleep a little bit, because it's like it's the delta brain waves are present when we have the deepest sleep, but somehow still can be very like totally aware, like you can speak, like you experience this. No, it's so this plus working with the mind, accessing the mind. So this is the psychosensory. That's why it's so powerful and effective. And this technique, what you experience, what we did, is all about kind of, I would say, calming down the amygdala, which is all about keeping us safe and to survive. It's this little part in the brain is responsible to survival and also relationships. So, but she's like we call her Amy, yeah, amygdala. So it's Amy. It's just like, am I safe or am I not? And it's just scanning all the time, like non-stop, 24/7. So then we want to calm her down through these different modalities, and then we are able to disconnect. But then this goes. Maybe I won't. I'm not gonna go deep into this, trauma. But taking your example, right? You felt the way you felt, and the cortisol level, the amygdala was like a firing, like everything was like. And when this amygdala takes over the brain, and when the amygdala detects there's a danger somehow, it just takes over, and the rational mind, like you would say, okay, calm down, okay, nothing is really happening, this you cannot hear. Then it's just no way. It's like a panic attack. And then you need to, and through these havening techniques and working with working memory plus like specific distractions, you can disconnect the neural pathway related to the stress level, to the cause, to the root of it. And then you have this, after that, this you can have this cleared neural pathway, which is not stuck on the synapses here, so that's why well, so that this is more or less, it's more it's hard to say and explain in details this, because it's super complex, like a heavy neuroscience behind. But this is more or less what happening is, disconnecting this, clearing out the neural pathway related to the traumatic experience or memory or event, which has an emotional content.
I think that when we had the session, I mean, I've dabbled in like lots of alternative different things to try and help my mental health, and it's kind of similar to the tapping and those kind of techniques, but it is, I think, sadly, these kind of techniques do still kind of have the taboo put on them, like hippie, and you do believe in all that kind of, that kind of stuff, and oh yeah, all right then, kind of thing. I think you do have to go into it. I mean, you can go into it half-hearted and think, is this going to work, not going to work? Fine, I think anyway. I'll let you speak on that. But what you do have to go into it full throttle. Like, I sat there and like all of the, like, my ego kind of came into place, like, oh my God, like I'm on video and I'm so vulnerable right now. And I've got my eyes closed. Like, what face am I pulling? What do I sound like? And then I kind of had to be like, I've got a choice. I can choose to sit in this state of being conscious and worried about the outside factors and people and judgment, or I've got this choice to have some kind of relief from what I'm going through in the moment, so that I can go through this period in the way that serves me best and serves the people around me best. And I think that I benefited from it because I let go of all of the other bullshit and just said, I'm here for me, actually. And that was one of the things that you said, Sabio, that was really interesting. You kind of sat down and said, oh, how are things? And I kind of, oh, well, this has happened and this has happened and this person's done this. And then you kind of like cut me off and I was like, oh, okay. And like, this is about you, how are you feeling? And we're here for you now, in a different way about it. But it was kind of like, I don't want to hear about all that other stuff and these things. Like, we're here right now for you. And you just need to like have that experience. And I think it's we don't lean to looking after ourselves well. There's the concept of self-care now. I don't feel that all of the self-care, you know, little memes that you see are necessarily self-care, whereas something like this is you really investing in yourself in the now and in the long term and for the previous you. And the effect of it, and I'm not just saying it, we scaled kind of like my feeling of all of my feelings, and they were like at a 10 or even above 10 if I could have gone above 10. And I'm not lying when I say that I could sit there in a completely relaxed state, more relaxed than if I was on holiday on a beach with a drink. I was in a complete state of stillness and peace and warmth and just calm, more than I've known in my normal life. And so to be able to do that in what right then was the worst experience of my life was just like blow away. And it was actually, I think, really important, which I'll ask you if this is the case, for my organs to, even if it was, you know, it came back the next day or, you know, however long after, that slight relief for my heart, my liver, my kidneys, I think was just, yeah, like I can't even find the word, but like so important that my body, my system had some relief so that then I could restart and continue and then come back to Sabio again for another session to do the same process again. Yeah, I don't know if you have anything to say on that.
Yes, it's you know, because I when I experienced this technique, when I studied this technique with my teacher, and you know, I also had traumatic experience when I was free, you know, and during this session we actually disconnected this neural pathway. So imagine that something is like hardwired. So it's like a plug. It's a cable plug to this one neural pathway, 24/7, reminding you about everything, all the feelings, everything. If something happened to us in the past, and never stops. And suddenly, disconnection. So your system doesn't know what's going on. Like I barely came back home. Like, and I had few people, like few of my clients, the same situation. When you remove this old, you know, the whole life you carry through your whole life something like some kind of charge. When it's like with drugs, with addiction, we get used to it. It's like necessary, almost like every day. If you remove it, the body is like the whole nervous system is just needs to readjust. But first it just drops like and then, you know, and it needs time to to tune again, you know, without this now. So now it's like, okay, now it's a rearrangement of the distribution of energy to all the organs, you know. And but this is also related to the biological conflict, you know. So the biology, on the biological level, there are some conflicts also. So the body itself has a like, and it's related to amygdala also, and we have this memory of feelings, and you know, and and when this is somewhere trapped in like as an information in the body. So that was also the reason why you could feel this, oh, you know, some kind of really big change. And yes, I really I observe this all the time, that people have this strong reactions. I must say, you know, it's you know, I've done lots of other things before, different modalities, and that was like this is like a tank, like a hammer, just knocks this out, what's is not necessary, and then everything needs to readjust to the normal kind of, to
Mm.
your normal energy. And the less we the more we remove of these blockages, because it's an investment through our life to carry this, distortions.
Mm.
If we remove those distortions one by one, or the key ones, then we collapse, the whole, like, let's say, like, you have legs in the table, you collapse three or two, and then the table will collapse completely. So it's the same thing. And then oh, wow, then now it's me. Okay. you know Now it's you, because before it wasn't you, it was you plus something which is not yours.
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know and this is what the havening, this psychosensory modalities can do. It's really amazing.
Mm. And I think it's such an amazing technique as well, because it's effective for like past trauma and like present trauma as well. Like it's a pill of two things kind of thing.
Yeah.
And what was interesting after sitting with you was like, I don't know, it's something that I felt okay. And one of the things that you said was like, it's safe to be safe. And it still goes over in my ear over and over again. But I felt okay. And what at the time I was perceiving was the worst experience in my whole life. And immediately, like, my body's like, it's not okay to be okay. Like, I felt this guilt about feeling okay. Like, and almost kind of like looking for symptoms in my body, like, oh, is it my heart? Like looking at things and like seeing my mum in tears and kind of looking at her and being like, why am I not crying? Like, come on, you need to cry, Elisha. And then worrying about what other people are going to be thinking of me because I'm okay and I shouldn't be okay in that situation. Like, what is that? Why does that come along? Like, why?
Because this is, from my observation, it's a paradox.
Mm.
The reason, like, from my perspective, this is my opinion, but really, I got to the point that we really don't want to get healed, like, fully. We only want to be like 75%, 80, 90 sometimes, but not fully, because fully means, like, means massive change of everything.
Mm.
you know and this guilt, it's a normal thing, and but the question is this me? Who says this? If it was me, then it's fine, but are we sure that it's you?
Yeah.
It how, through your whole life, we remember, or can we, it's like, technically it is possible, but normally it is not possible to remember everything, all those little things. you know you're not supposed to do this. Like, all the environment, the information, school, we don't do this way. No. And like, the through whole life, if we just even consider that this is the case, that this is not, maybe this is not necessarily my guilt,
Mm.
then it will be easier to separate this part. It's a part of me, but I can separate this part, and then say, okay, step back a little bit. Okay, you're guilt. Okay, why are you guilty? Where are you coming from? You know, and then you have a space, because if it's blended, like you said, Alicia, I need to cry. That's the blended part said. It wasn't like, wait a minute, who said that? Step back. I need to see you. I want to understand why you need to cry. You know, do I need to cry? Really? And maybe I understand, and you know, maybe I'm, because I'm not crying, because the fact I'm not crying, I'm supporting my mother better. You
Mm.
know,
Mm.
or this kind of things. So it's a, but the guilt is it jumps always, and the problem is that we think it's our guilt.
Mm. Mm.
It's our guilt, and but maybe it's a guilt of the whole culture, which will impose and just, you know, you have to be guilty. You have to, you know, who said that?
Mm.
You know.
Mm.
So, but it's normal thing, and because of this guilt, also, you know, and the one thing to I just want to say, this safe to be safe. It's safe to be safe. We can be healed 100% instantly, like now, if we know it's safe.
Mm.
Because if it's safe, then we do anything. The amygdala, Amy, is like, hey, it's not safe to be healed. We need to still, you know, there's so much, you know, I don't know what it means. It's dangerous to be healed, to be okay, not crying. Yeah, I would just always remember that there's, you know, make space with everything what is coming, any fear or whatever. Step back, you know. Okay, now I can see you, because if you're like this, if the fear is like this, you cannot even see how big what's that,
Mm.
you know. A step back, and then suddenly it's like little fear.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then once you localize this, then you can disconnect this, you know. Mm.
Yeah. It's so interesting. It's I read like sometimes you know, it's quite nice to wear the victim t-shirt because, you know, then you've got a story to tell and people pay attention. And, you know, it's, if you don't have that victim story to tell, then who are you? Like, then you've got to front face who you really are and what you're about and your values and things. So it's yeah, it's not always an easy process, is it, to go down the route? It's not necessarily the easiest path to take, but I think it's the most long-term beneficial process to take.
Mm. Mm.
So I guess like we've kind of spoken about most of it in a whole, but obviously there's so much more that we could go into separate sections and, you know, go through it thoroughly, or even more so. There's so much more to it than what you said, I'm sure. But say if you know, somebody's watching this and they've been through an experience, and it can be any experience, right? Any kind of trauma. Does it have to be a trauma? Can it be something that's not a trauma? Like,
It doesn't need to be a trauma, but you know, any kind of uh, situation when we are overwhelmed with emotions, you know, or just feeling, because you know, it doesn't need to be traumatic when we face some kind of exam, or there's something, you know, like I will soon be part of the project where we are kind of preparing the like a fake audition for dancers,
mhm,
and how to deal with stress. So through this also you can learn, because it's not only that you know, we can work at the time on something, but the most amazing thing is that we can learn, we can take it home, and it's really, the more regular we do, it's you know, like this touch, like I'm not kidding you, like I got to the point at some point, at some point I got to the point that it's like morphine. Like, oh, like this is like, oh my God. You know, when you get used to it, and you just need to be regular, and you just, for example, like I just can show you like how this can work and how clever is that. So for example, I say, okay, I'm nervous, yeah, and I do this for a while, and I say, I'm nervous, I'm nervous, I'm nervous, I'm nervous, and I can feel really nervous. But the body has like, but where are you nervous? Like, it doesn't get it. I mean, it can get, but it's more difficult to get nervous when you do this. Yeah, and you just calm down, and the body has a different information, because input is, wait a minute, this is quite nice actually. Yeah, and you're nervous, and that's one thing. But then I say, okay, I'm good, I'm quiet, and relax. And the body says, yes, relax. So you cannot go wrong with that, and this is something important that we can take it home and really make our practice, and to regulate ourselves. Yeah, this is a good thing. So, but doesn't need to be trauma. So, for example, I do this very like almost every day. Would be nice to do it, like to maintain the mind after the day. So before, like we brush our teeth, the same here. We are cleaning the mind when before we go sleep. So I do this. So emptying the tank, I call it like emptying the tank. So I say, okay, so what did I feel this today? Okay, and anxiety, and I repeat, and I'm just like, and releasing in a safe way. It's safe to release an anxiety and face an anxiety. Okay, I was angry, and until it doesn't have a meaning. It is just like, first it's maybe strong angry, but then at some point like, oh, it's not, it's okay, and then you maybe something else will come, and you just like release through that, and then you say, okay, I'm calm, I'm okay after that, and with this state, okay, or peace, calm, you go sleep. And imagine every day, if we don't miss a day with this practice, in 1 year I would like to see
Yeah.
the difference, like every night you go peace, calm, and relax, for example, you know.
And it's the beauty of it as well. Like I've used it, like I've been at work and things have been, bubbling in all different areas, and you can go to the toilet. You can literally do it anywhere. Like you can go to the toilet and do it to yourself, or even if it's not appropriate in the toilet, stroking my hand has brought enough
You do
comfort.
this.
Yeah.
Mm.
Nobody knows what you're doing.
Mm.
Like it's a tool that you can take everywhere. You don't have to have your headphones to tune into a meditation. You don't have to have your bells to, like, it's a tool that you can take everywhere and also give to others.
Totally. We say we have the healing is in your hands, literally, like, that it's, yeah, really, it's a beautiful practice. Yeah.
It really is. So if somebody was looking, have watched this, thinking about, I want to try this, like, what are one, where do they find you? Secondly, is there an age bracket on the type of person you can work with? Is there any conditions that you can't work with, whether it's mental health or physical conditions? And how many sessions would you recommend for a person to start feeling the benefit of this?
So yeah, so if someone is interested, they can find me through masteringharmony.com, and there's a clinic. It's called psychosensoryclinic.com also. So all the details and emails are there. And the there is I work with different areas. Usually I don't the moment I don't work with children, but more with adults, but maybe youngsters. So I had clients like around 16, even autistic. But it all depends, because the first session, usually I do the kind of intake. So it's like a preparation, because we need to know where we are at, what's going on. Yeah, so it's like there's a specific kind of customization for the session. So we need to get familiar with this, understanding how really this amygdala works, how how the traumatic experience is encoded. So it's a bit of this plus intake, and of some I need to have some information, what's where we go. And one of the amazing thing is that we can work content free with this technique. So I don't want to know anything what happened. And usually people want to, they coming to talking therapy. They're like, oh, this happened, I feel this, and she said, he said. We don't need to go through any images, because what we are interested in the amygdala, Emmy is only interested in sensory input, how I felt at this moment. So I don't need to know, I don't want to even know uh, any content, but obviously it's possible, it all depends on the session. So the first is this kind of little diagnosis, and then the first session, I would say I see the best results like if there are 3 sessions, like really, because we can really dig in and look for this root cause uh, the cause of the what do I want to say of the this distortion. Yeah, like I just, again, I don't want to call it anyhow.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah, let's say like a disharmony. Yeah.
Yeah.
So mastering harmony, we are looking for this harmony, we are tuning, and then we are in tune, in balance,
Mm.
basically. Yes. So did you ask about anything else?
Age group, how many sessions, where they can find you, which you've answered all of them. If somebody wanted to continue for more than 3 sessions, is that an option?
Yes, it's but it is an option, but this technique is very rapid and quick. So normally, if we have this idea about therapy years and years, this is not like I would say. I would actually would like to have like more session, but really, to be honest, I need to be honest. I don't think it's necessary. Like because once we disconnect this neural pathway related to this event, it's like a, if you like a cutting the tree. It's not gonna grow. I mean, all depends, but most of the time it's done. It's like unplugged,
Mm.
and where we can access the same memory, the same event, but without discharge. So it will be like, oh, it's okay. It's like, yeah, it happened. Oh, it's very unfortunate. But then there's no, the heart is not bumping, like it's no heart attack when we think about this. you know. So that's what happens. And then when we have this kind of scenario, then there's not much really to do. What is important, because now, let's say, for a long time we had this condition. Now we balanced everything, and what we can do now with this also, completely reprogram the brain for completely different direction. So because there's a kind of a bit of hole, like you extract the tooth. When it heals, and then we have a healed space, and now we can put through the same technique, now, like literally reprogram through neuroplasticity the brain,
Yeah.
and put everything into different direction. Yeah, so it is possible, but it's really um, um, depends on the case. It's all like always like a custom, and client by client, we just readjust.
Yeah. Wow. It's amazing. It's just it is too good to be true, sort of thing. Like,
Well, well, yeah, well, it's from my perspective, I have different from different I see from different angle, because I've done so many sessions, and I saw like how it works. I mean, and really, I cannot put into words, because like like you had to experience, you had to have this be against the wall, like to try it,
yeah.
you know and then and yes, but also everything is all depends, because there are so many factors when this healed aspect will work, and many factors, like it will not work, because, for example, if someone was abused, and they come back to the same family, to the same place, and it will happen again, it's again re-traumatization. So we cannot expect that something will change. We need to change environment first, and then, so in these cases, that's why it's so uh, yeah, it depends many times, yeah. So that's what I
That's
mean.
something that you will explore with the person when they come to you.
Yeah, yes.
And then I guess the final thing is, can it be in face? Does it have to be in face? Can it be online? Does it have to be online? What kind of, and if you're doing it, say, at home, online, what kind of environment is best to attend the session in?
So that's what surprised me, because originally this technique was created to be face to face, and then practitioner did the havening, and apparently that's the most powerful way that someone does to you. And then pandemic came, and suddenly everything went online, and I think it's amazing. It's even better, because then we learn that you don't need anyone to do this. You don't need, and I don't even want to touch anyone to be honest. I always encourage people to, okay, do this for yourself, because then it's in your hand. you know so online works perfectly, and yes, it's like, of course, what we need is a good internet connection, and the quiet environment, basically, to have a time that is this 1 hour and a half, to just have a quiet space to work on it. Yeah. But I do also one-to-one sometimes. Yes, it depends. Yeah,
Okay.
in face. I
Well,
mean.
unless there's anything else you want to say, I think it brings us nicely to a close. But maybe you have one final word that you would like to say, or anything that's come up.
Well, yes, I just want to say thank you. Yeah, it's pleasure it's been pleasure to talk about this. It's so, this doula, this death. I had a calling for a long time to do this, for a long time, and it can just just say this story. Once I was at the retreat in Poland, and I met the director, the president of this foundation, charity organization, a charity. It was a hospice for unborn children. So the scenario is that the mother is pregnant, right? And they know the baby will not make it, or so it's a very high risk. But those parents, they act like they have family, they have a child, fully function. And then I was thinking like, oh my god, it would be amazing to play concert, because I also do music and play. I'm a musician, so play concert for them, like personal concert for this couple. And and that's where she said, yeah, that would be amazing, because they go, for example, to cinema together. They go to for dinners. They act like it's a normal situation, and which is amazing. And then and that was the beginning. I started thinking, this about death, and always wanted to support, like, people in hospices. And just one day I had this thought, like, I know what to do. I need to do this course. And I did this train, the certification, and it was amazing. It's just life-changing perspective, like thinking about, death. And mm, yeah, it's that's I'm glad you wanted to talk about this.
Yeah,
Mm,
it had to be done. And thank you so much for literally like being there and giving me the tools and the time that I needed the most. And also for like all of the stuff over the years, like Sabio's been a part of my life through a lot, through different techniques and approaches, which you can find out more on his website. And yeah, like I'm just glad that you've allowed me to open my eyes to alternative approaches and, support myself, kind of thing. So thank you to you too.
pleasure.
Yeah, that's it then, I suppose. And maybe there'll be some others, who knows? But for today, I think that's it. That's done.
Yes, feels like. Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll be in touch.
Yeah.
Okay,
Take
thanks.
care.